Hey everybody, welcome back to Vegas Weekly for Saturday, July the 30th, 2022. And if you looked at the little thumbnail and the description, it says Vegas 49. What's that all about? Well, what it's all about was a surprise trip, an under-the-radar trip to Las Vegas that I took along with my lady a couple of weeks ago. We just got back basically 2 weeks ago tonight. And ever since we first started talking about a year ago, she'd been interested in going. It didn't really work out in March. And, we kind of wanted a couples only trip. And she was not really that interested in a bunch of meetups and things like that. So we kept it very, very, as I say, under the radar. I talked about it probably in a little more detail than I will today on the live stream on Wednesday. So if you want to check that out, that would be great. But I will cover a few basics of the trip as well as some of my impressions of Las Vegas, July 2022, whatever that's worth. And we'll talk about that a little bit today. We've got next week should be a normal week of programming. If you think back a few weeks, the show that didn't get released on time, I mentioned that we would not be doing our regular midweek shows. We're taking a break. Well, that was the trip to Vegas. So, this week should be a normal week of shows. The following week, I am headed out of town to visit the family up in Nebraska. And so we had a few videos that we did on the trip. Did a few videos on the trip, and so we're going to go ahead and release those, or at least release a couple of those in lieu of what we would normally be doing with a Vegas tips and tricks episode. So that'll be coming up not this week, but the following week. I didn't really notice a lot of big Vegas-related news this week, so we're going to go ahead and just skip over all of that and just talk a little bit about the trip, which is in fact Vegas 49, my 49th trip to Las Vegas. For Miss Caitlin, it was her first, and so let's jump right into the details. So anyway, we flew out on the night of July the 10th. It was supposed to be like a 9:30 flight. It ended up getting delayed till about 10:30. Last flight out of the night, we were just happy it didn't get canceled. So got into Vegas about an hour later than originally planned. It was 11:30, and then we got to the sort of luggage pickup area, and the little conveyor belt broke for about 10 minutes, so we waited a little extra long for the luggage. At that point, I was like, yeah, we're not going to deal with the rideshare thing. We'll just catch a cab, and that went pretty quickly. Made it over to Luxor. I had 4 nights booked at one of the one-bedroom suites there ended up being the East Tower, I guess. Yeah. Basically, the same room that I had stayed in Rocktober a year and a half or so ago, almost 2 years ago now, I guess. And so that was fine. I should have sort of pre-checked in using the app, but I was like, well, there won't be any kind of a line, waiting to get checked in for the gold check-in and stuff. And of course there was. So we waited a little while for that. I thought, maybe we get some kind of great upgrade, but no, that didn't happen either. But so we didn't make it to the room till after midnight. We were both starving because we hadn't eaten since earlier in the day. There were still a few things open in the old food court, and we grabbed a slice of Bonanno's pizza, which would be a trend. We returned to the Luxor food court like 3 more times on the trip. So you can tell it was a gourmet food consumption experience all the way around. But it hit the spot. It worked. We gambled a little at Luxor and Excalibur. It was, like I said, it was literally her first trip to Vegas. She was quite impressed in general with the lights and everything, and just the whole experience that first night. But I wouldn't say we had any great success or failures. We didn't play that long that day. The following morning, I had reserved a rental car. I thought it would be fun to sort of drive around the Las Vegas Valley, get away from just the Strip and the gambling and the downtown and all that sort of thing. Mostly, just in case it wasn't something that was really appealing to her. So I'd rented from Avis right there at the Luxor. It took me a little bit of time to figure out where they were located, but I did, and had no problem with that. We ended up with like a Ford Edge or something, and it was kind of nice. We drove around, checked out a lot of little places around Las Vegas. Drove downtown, drove up the Strip, drove out to the Summerlin area, out around by Red Rocks. Kind of took a little loop around the southwest side of the city. We were able to stop up at a Walmart and then get some provisions for a few days, which I'm sure was a money saver as well. Of course, buying the gas in Las Vegas at $5 and something a gallon probably helped cut into that great savings. But it was nice. It was fun just getting out and seeing a little bit of the wilderness and the desert, as well as the gambling city. The funny thing is that she had mentioned she'd like to find some place with some funnel cakes. And I was like, well, that seems kind of odd. But I did like a search on Google, and there was like a place that just specialized in funnel cakes down in like the mall there. Is it Town Square? I think that's what it is, down to the south of Mandalay Bay. So we made our way down there and had lunch there, and it was fine. I'm not a big funnel cake guy, but I had some kind of funnel cakes with bacon and maple syrup, and it pretty much tasted like breakfast. I guess she was pleased with hers. It was a lot of food. Neither one of us finished that. We were also supposed to eat at Emeril's that night, but we got so delayed driving around that we ended up missing our reservation. So for the second time in my life, I missed a reservation at Emeril's. So, that was a fun day. We ended up gambling basically also just in that Mandalay, Luxor, Excalibur area a little bit as well on Monday night. Tuesday, once we sort of got up and around, we made our way north up the Strip. I thought this was going to be pretty much the full-on sightseeing day. The plan was to eventually make it all the way downtown. We got a little bit of a late start. That didn't happen. We walked through New York, Park MGM, took the little tram over to Bellagio, checked out the conservatory, saw one of the fountain shows. It was one of the least impressive fountain shows. I can't even remember what I think it might have been a Lady Gaga song or something. It just wasn't the best job of syncing the music in the water show. And she was less impressed with that than she was with the Mirage Volcano, which we eventually made our way down to. At that point, it was already approaching sunset, and I was like, yeah, we're not going to go all the way downtown tonight. So we actually ended up grabbing some food and beverage at Casino Royale and hanging out at Harrah's for a while and playing. As I said, I didn't tell a lot of people about the trip, but there were some people that I knew were going to be in town, that there was going to be some overlap, and I thought perhaps I might run into those people on purpose or by accident. And we did run into the Frontiersmen, Walt and Tina, that night at Harrah's. Had a nice chat with them, so that was fun. And then shortly after that, we made our way back down to the hotel. I think we walked as far as Cosmo and then got a ride. Wednesday was supposed to be our last day in town. Yeah, it was a pretty short trip if you think about it. So we actually ended up waking up really early and playing quite a bit at Mandalay Bay, like before 8, 9 o'clock, which was really kind of odd. But what we did that afternoon was made our way downtown finally. We went down to the D. We thought we'd hang out downtown for a while and then either potentially head back to the room and take a little nap. We had a very early flight planned. or just try to stay up, which, yeah, I don't know that that was going to work out very well, but regardless. So we got to the D and played a little bit at the Bar Canada with no real success. Moved over to play the Fortune Cup machine, and within about 10 minutes, I had hit for like $300, and she had bet a larger amount on the same quinella and had hit a hand pay on the Fortune Cup. So a pretty successful first trip as far as gambling was concerned. So we hung out downtown a little bit, made our way down to Circa, and played there for a while. And I was like, we've done really well. We've won a lot of money. Let's see if we can just extend our stay by a day. So it cost a little bit to do that. But we went ahead and changed our flight to Friday around 1, I guess what it was. And got a room on that Thursday night at the Sahara. I ended up booking it through like Vegas.com, which I would never normally do, but I was just trying to quickly compare rates and see what seemed like a reasonable price and what might be an interesting place to stay. So that's what we ended up doing. And so we checked out of Luxor on Thursday morning, took a ride share over to Sahara. We had to check our stuff because we were a little early getting in there. And we ended up hanging out at the Kaz bar and playing for a while. I think she was kind of up and down, but I, within about an hour and a half period, I'd put like $100 into the machine, and I think I cashed out with about between $850 and $900. I hit a 4 of a kind playing double bonus that was $200, and then had a couple of shockingly had a couple of hits on Ultimate X Keno that each paid $350. So suddenly I was the one that was winning big, and she was slowly giving back some of her winnings. But so as we got into the room there, it was fine, had no problems with that. And we mostly just hung around at the Sahara the rest of the day and into the evening, playing there, just relaxing. Thought about going to the Strat, doing some things like that, but it never really happened. So we finally that night grabbed some food late night at Chicky and Pete's, a little sports bar that's opened up there in the last couple of years. I guess it's based upon a sports bar originally out of Philadelphia. We really enjoyed the food. We had like chicken strips and some kind of fries or something. They were both really good. The dipping sauces were good. So I would definitely return, check that place out, preferably when I have access to the entire menu, because it was really just kind of a late night menu there. So a pretty successful trip gambling wise, a successful trip in terms of bonding, shall we say. And it was good for her to have a chance to finally visit Las Vegas, and she took to it very, very well. So anyway, yeah, that was Vegas 49. There's no vlog. There was nothing recorded, and I should say nothing recorded, but I've always said I'm not a very good vlogger anyway, and most of you agree with that. Even people that don't watch the channel agree with that. I'm not very diligent about it under the best of circumstances. And so it was not particularly difficult for me to just not turn the camera on during this trip. And like I said, I did record a few little things along the way, some private stuff, and then a few videos that we'll release at some point. But yeah, so that was kind of nice not to worry about that or to pay very much attention to that on this trip. But I will be back still in September, and I will plan to do a more traditional style vlog, or at least some kind of a vlog for that trip, and maybe try to record some videos. Like I said, the videos I recorded on this trip are kind of, I wouldn't say niche, but we're just kind of a fun little snippet here and something over here. And so I used to do a lot more of that, so I'll try to get back to doing a little bit more of that in September as well. So if any of you have any questions about the trip, Vegas was hot, but not as hot as I've been on some July trips. So it wasn't too bad there. It was reasonably busy, but I wouldn't say overwhelmingly busy. It was about what I would have expected from a midweek in the middle of the summertime. So anyway, we'll wrap up this week's show. Next week we'll be back with more of the hard-hitting news and commentary, which this program has recently become famous for. And of course, we'll be back during the week with more episodes of the Vegas Tips and Tricks series, as well as the podcast. Until then, I hope that all of you have a great, lucky, and healthy week. See y'all again real soon. Bye-bye.